What do you know about the tenure process? What does it mean the year that you go up for tenure? What kind of documents do you have to put together? How long does the process take? That's coming up in this video. Hi everyone, I'm Leigh from teachingacademia.com, and I'm all about giving you the tools you need to navigate academia to make your best impact. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button so that you get notifications because I put out new videos each week. Today, I'm going to be talking with Dr. Chyllis Scott, who is an assistant professor at the University of Nevada in Las Vegas. And you're going to be hearing from her firsthand account of what it's been like to go through not just the tenure process, but that year when you go up for tenure, when you're making that transition from assistant to associate, all the paperwork that's involved, all the time, all the processes, all the procedures. She's going to give us some insight into what this year has been like for her and what you can expect when it's your time too. Hi everyone, I am here today with Dr. Chyllis Scott. Hi Chyllis.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's almost the end of the semester, so a little stressed out.
It is. We are the time that we're recording this. It is almost the end of the semester. It's everybody's panic time.
Mm-hmm.
You are currently an assistant, but hopefully soon to be associate professor at the University of Nevada in Las Vegas, and you're going to be talking with us today about this tenure process that you're going through. So as I understand it right now, you've prepared your packet, you've submitted everything, it's all kind of out of your hands. They're looking for external reviewers for you. And so what I'd like to talk to you about is sort of, you can think about the last, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months, year. I'm not sure when you started putting everything together, and sort of share with us your journey in terms of what you had to do, the emotional, ups and downs that go with this. Obviously, different institutions have different procedures and policies, but I think it's helpful just to hear what it's like for you, how long it took for you, and where you are, so people can get a sense of what this looks like and how much time and effort goes into it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I think it was important for anybody to know, like you had already said, that the process at every school is different. And I think, if I'm going to think back a year, but I'm going to go back to 5 years and just say, like, what are the expectations? What does my school and my department and my college want of me or think I should be able to achieve within the 5 years that when my packet goes up? So I think first and foremost for anybody, that's just what they need to know from the beginning. And that was something that I actually asked when I interviewed, is what are the expectations? And so for the past year, I would say for the past 3 years, I literally worked on, we have to have external reviewers. And so I worked on my list of people that I think were in my area that would be associates or full professors at a comparable or higher institution. And that was a focus of mine because there are people that we do similar research with. Would we research with them? Would we not? Because if we research with them, we can't use them at most institutions on our list.
Yeah. I want to just make a point here that I think is really important before we go on, so that people are aware of this, especially if they're new to understanding this process, is that an external reviewer has to be somebody. So if you're assistant going up for associate, it can be somebody that's an associate professor. It can be somebody that's a full professor. They're higher in rank than you. But they cannot have worked with you, because if they have written a book with you, or if you've been on a research project with them, even if they were a professor at the university where you did your PhD, even if they were not on your committee or you didn't take classes with them, if they were there, then at the time that you were there, then they could be seen as somebody that would bring bias, most likely positive bias, right? I think is the concern, to the table. And so you want people who are, they might be aware of you because they've seen you present or they've read your work, but they haven't collaborated and worked closely with you. So that's the struggle. I'm sorry, I just thought it was important to sort of clarify. That's the struggle that you're dealing with here. From the get-go, you're being mindful about it. Yeah.
Right. And some of my colleagues didn't even know about this process. And fortunately, I had an advisor that I saw her go through the process, so I knew what to expect. So the list of people that I wanted to put forward to my department was important because I wanted people that knew my work, but I hadn't worked with. But for the last year, I would say, last fall, in a year in advance, I started working on my research statement. And this is something that goes to the external reviewers. And again, it depends on the school, the expectations, and what the requirements are. Ours is a 1-page research statement for all 5 years. Yes.
Oh, I think mine was somewhere in the 5 to 7 page range, single space.
Right. Mine was single space, 1 page.
Wow.
And so majority of it just spoke about what my 2 research strands are, and then what are the publications I have in those areas, what is the continued research, and then I have just a little bit on teaching, but how my teaching ties to my research and vice versa, and then I had a little bit on service. But yeah, in 1 page of 5 years, again, every school is different. So that was my challenge, was fitting my last 5 years of my life in academia into 1 page. So I really did start on that last September, because I did want to get feedback from my peers that had been through P&T already, and then my former chair and my other mentors. So I had probably 4 or 5, maybe, or 6 individuals read my letter and give me feedback.
So you started working on your statement in September. When did you have to have it done, submitted, turned in? I just want people to get a sense of how long you spent working on this.
I submitted it 2 weeks ago when I was at AERA.
So you submitted it in April?
April. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so if you have to think between September and the middle of April, on average, for any given week, how much time would you say you spent working on this statement?
I would say it was a part of my life, on average, at least an hour a week.
Okay.
I would say in the beginning, it was, a more extensive time. Like I spent several hours a day for several weeks, but then it just became part of my to-do list from, I think January, I had a good solid rough draft.
Okay.
And then for the past 3 months, it was something I read like once a week. The reason for that was I actually had publications between January and April. And so then I had to say, what is more valuable, the current pubs or the former pubs? Because again, I'm limited in that 1 page. And so I can have those in my CV, but I need to make sure. So I had my big dissertation got published last month. And so that was the one that I wanted in there. So those kind of things. But I spent, I'd say, a minimum hour a week since beginning of fall.
It sounds like you have this flow where you have to spend more time on it up front initially to get a handle on it, to get a handle on what you're going to say, to get a handle on the language, to really get it so that it's in a decent shape. And then as you get it in decent shape, you can start to spend less and less time on it. But there's going to be a period of probably 3, maybe even 4 months where people should expect, and again, yours was a page, which is hard because it's a page. Mine was somewhere between 5 and 7 pages. I don't remember. So we talked about research, teaching, and service and all of that. So I'm sure that I spent just as much time because I had more space, but I still had to figure out how am I going to organize this? What am I going to prioritize? And that's another thing that you talked about is you have to think about, while all of these things can be on your CV, you want your letter to highlight and draw attention to particular things that you want reviewers to really make sure that they pay attention to. And so you have to make critical decisions because everything can't go in.
Right, exactly. And especially like some people have 1 solid research strand. I have 2 solid research strands. And so I had to first talk about what they are and why they are the way they are, and then plug in the research. The other thing that I did do that was helpful was because I am at UNLV, I asked some of my colleagues that had gone through the P&T process prior to myself, and they shared their letters with me. So I had successful letters that I could, use as a guide to support my writing. And so that I found really helpful. I had letters from peers from other institutions, but I think having 2 from here helped me to go, okay, this is what they did. And if they were successful, then I can continue to follow in that order.
Yeah, that is an excellent suggestion. I know I did the same thing, and I know at my previous institution when somebody was going up for tenure, there would often be an email going around. Like there was usually a faculty member that sort of was in charge of guiding assistant professors through the process. And so there would usually be an email from that person saying, does anybody have recent letters that we can share? So definitely getting examples and using those as models is super helpful. And even meeting with people to talk to them about how they made decisions, and then getting feedback. Once you get it in pretty good shape, asking multiple people to read it. I wouldn't ask other assistant professors to read it because they don't know, but I would ask your mentor, I would ask other associates and fulls, people that are going to be, if they vote on you for tenure, I would definitely be asking a range of people. They don't have to be in your discipline either. I don't think. Yeah.
And that's what I did was I got a couple of associate professors and 2 full and then 1 emeritus, and just said, you know, as a reviewer, since you've done this before, what are your thoughts? Where are my gaps? And so that's how I spent my time. The other thing I think is important is we all have, you know, very extensive CVs and we have details in it. The one thing that I did was I sent my CV to one of my colleagues and said, can you edit this? And not realizing how many errors I had, you know, because you have a title that goes out as one title, and then when it's published, it's a different title. I even still had those disconnects. And so I had one of my colleagues that I do a lot of research with, and she literally cleaned up the CV. So not only are they reading the letter, but they're looking at the CV to fill in the other gaps. And I had some grammatical errors that weren't just little. And so I think it's important to have that reviewed as well by those individuals.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, you want to make sure that you go through your CV and clean it up and make sure it's updated and you didn't leave something out. But then, you're going to be stressed. You're going to be sick of looking at this stuff. And so because of those things, I think it's reasonable that you're going to miss something. You're going to miss a grammatical error. You're going to miss that, you know, you said here you published this in 2015, but over here it says 2016. Like, which is it? And it's really, all those little details matter, right? They make you look professional when they align. They can make you look scattered when they don't. So I think finding somebody to do a really close read, particularly at the very end, is a really good advice. Yeah.
And the other thing on that is, I know some of my colleagues that haven't updated their CVs in a little while. And that's another thing that may be a little on the craziness side of myself, but I do it every week. And actually mine is open on my desktop because something changed yesterday. And so it's just easier for me. And the other thing is I save mine in folders by year. And then every month I resave my CV with the new month on it. Yeah, I've taught a lot of my graduate students that and colleagues because it was something, it just helps to keep you organized, because organization for P&T is the biggest thing that can make or break you. Yes.
So I think, you want to keep your CV organized from the get-go. I don't have to update mine every week, but I do, when something happens, I update it. Like, you know, if a conference paper is accepted, I put that in. If a paper is accepted, I put that in. Now are you I got tenure kind of still in the dark ages where we had to put together a box, and I had to have all these materials and documents. You get to do yours online now, I hope.
Yes, yes, but I still have to have all the materials and documents. So I have a Google Doc or Google Drive folder, and but it's still, to me, it would be just as though I had the hard copy box of files, but it's all organized in Google Docs, and then I have to do a zip file, and I send it to them in that format.
Yeah.
And they take it from me.
You have to scan, because some people, do you have to scan things? I'm assuming some things had to be scanned, and then other things maybe not. But, you have to be really diligent. And honestly, if I was doing it today, if I could do it online, I would probably do a couple of things. I would probably, if I had some kind of, certificate or achievement or something that came to me via email, I'm sure I would file that in a very specific place. But I would probably print it off too as a hard copy and put it in a file folder and have it labeled, just in case something got lost somewhere, deleted, something. I want, backup from my backup. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Exactly. But I have my external hard drive sitting here on my desk, and then I keep everything in Dropbox, and it's mirror copied into Google Drive, or vice versa. And then I have it on my hard drive. Yeah. And then I think that actually may be a folder on my desktop too, just because, like you're saying. And so, yes, anytime you get an email saying you've been accepted to a conference or I got an award, and I have the plaque, then I have a copy of the plaque or a photo of the plaque then put into my file, because I have the email too, but I want to show the documentation that I actually got the award type thing. And so anything like that, there is the most recent glitch that we're experiencing here was for the first 3 years I was here, everything was sent to us sent to us hard copy. And then we got an email saying the hard copy was in our mailbox. The last 2 years, everything has been sent to us electronically. We have a new associate dean, and so she has transferred everything electronically so I can go find things. But my first 3 years, I don't have those things unless I kept the hard copy. So many of us have to actually go to our dean's office and ask for certain files because they have them and we don't. But that would be one thing that I've been told several times, to make sure that I give myself enough time, like this next month or so, that I give the dean's office enough time too, saying I need, X, Y, and Z files by, July 1st. Can you get them to me? So those are some of the things we have to think about, because they may have been given to us and they may not. They just say, okay, we have them and we don't have copies. So those are just the little extra things that have come along that I've been advised to make sure I get, and don't wait till the end of July.
And one of the things too is that it sounds like this has gone pretty well for you in terms of being able to, you were organized from the beginning. So you weren't trying to run around and pull your CV together. You knew where your files were. Yes, you might have to request some things, but you know how to do that, and you've given yourself time to do that. So people that are just transitioning, right, into an assistant professor position, I think the important takeaway from this is you need to be organized. And like I said, I like backups of my backups. You need to be organized from the get-go, because then when you get here, then it becomes just it's a matter of pulling things together. But if you have them together, if you already have them, then you can do that and it's less stressful for you. Right. And then also, you're saying, you have some things that you might have to request from the dean's office. Other people are going to find that weird little things pop up, right? That take more time than you thought, that you didn't plan for, and are out of your control. So it sounds like you've sort of budgeted your time. You're not doing this at the last minute.
No.
You've given yourself a cushion. You've given yourself this nice space. And I think that's really important.
Right. And we also have an electronic portal that we have to put everything in written wise, but we update that yearly. And so that was what I've been working on the past couple of weeks. Ours is called digital measures. Every school has something different. But that's what I have to also have that printed and then digitally saved, not only with all the evidence, but that is about a 20-page document that is typed and organized. And some of the people have advised me to make sure I have a 2-week window to clean that up, because when it prints it out, it doesn't give you a clean version, and it doesn't track train changes. It doesn't check spelling and stuff like that. So that's another thing that I will not wait to the end, but wait closer to the end before I actually pull the file and clean it up. But every school is different. And it's just like you're saying, being organized and trying to be a little bit ahead of what the end goal is, so that you're not stressing out too much at the end. Yeah.
I would say it's better to give yourself more time than you need and be done a month early than to be cramming this in at the end. It's very stressful. So you seem very calm. And maybe that's because you've got a big load off your shoulders at this point. Maybe if I talked to you in October, it would have been completely different.
Oh, I was freaking out.
So can you sort of describe for people what your sort of emotional journey has been over this last academic year, so they can sort of get a sense of what they might experience as well, or what's normal or typical?
And this may be a bad comparison, but as many people say that, the dissertation phase can be a little lonely because it's your research. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a growing experience. I think this experience is kind of similar, because it is you putting all of your work together. And so my emotions, I would say in the fall, I would not have been this calm. Even the early spring, I was still a little, I'd be honest, freaked out, just because it is, 5 years of your work, and people are looking at 1-page research statement and a CV, and, the rest of the dossier goes forward with the rest of the external reviewers only get that. So you can ask my friends, my husband, anybody. Fall, I was a little much more nervous and anxious the whole time, especially in writing that statement, because I'm like, what do I include? So as I progress through, I'm very transparent with my colleagues and my full professors and my chair, and they've supported me along the way and said, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I listened to their advice. When they said you need national service, I went that next week to a conference and did what I could to get national service. They said you need a solo author, which that depends. You know, we can agree or disagree on that. So the next semester I worked on a piece that was a solo authored, and that got published last year. So it's just listening to the advice of those ahead of you that have been through the process. But my feelings in the fall, didn't matter how well I thought I was doing. I was still very stressed out. But it is to be expected. But when I did submit it, it was that little button of like, do I push it? But I did it, and I was like, okay, now I'm done with this process. I can only just wait. But I feel good because I really did work hard.
Yeah. Great. So your next step now is really, I mean, you have a few little things to wrap up, right? Mm-hmm. But then really it's sitting and waiting. Can you sort of help people know between now and maybe December, or now and spring, what are the next things that happen for you?
Well, in our process, it is, I think, a little bit different because I just did submit everything for external reviewers. At the beginning of August, my school dossier is due. So that is that full box, that full file. So I'm still working on getting all the artifacts collected, and that is August. I do know that the last week of August, my department then sits and meets about me. So during that week, I will make sure that I am busy and not on my floor when I know that they're in the meetings discussing myself, because I don't want that extra pressure. But it goes from my department in the first week of August to then my chair. And then by the end of September, it goes to the dean's office. And by the end of the semester, end of semester, it goes from the dean's office and college committees, and then it goes to the provost. So here at UNLV, we usually know the provost decision by February.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And then from there, it goes to the Board of Regents and is voted on, yes or no. But and the good thing about, again, every university is different. Our university is transparent with the progress along the way. And you also will get, our department chair will send me the letter that they write. So I'll know kind of how I stand. The college committee will send me what they write, and the dean will send me what he writes. And so along the way, if there's some discrepancy, I will know how I'm progressing, and I may be more freaked out, or I will know how I'm progressing and I will continue to be confident in this process. Right. But it is the process. And so I just know from August, it will be in my department. September, it will move its way up. And then by the end of the semester, beginning of the year, it will be at the provost's office.
Yeah, it's hard. And I remember when I went up for tenure, we had it was associates and fulls, and they had a meeting. I mean, there was a committee for me that had written a report and looked at the external review letters or whatever. And then the committee presented that to all the associates and fulls, and then they discussed it, and then they voted. And then that went with the dean, and then the dean met with me to talk to me about that. And then I don't remember if I got a copy of his letter. I might have, I don't remember. But he did share, I know he did explicitly share with me what would be going in that letter at that meeting.
Right.
But I actually had to go to campus while they were having that meeting about me, because I scheduled the meeting with the dean. It was 30 minutes after the meeting about me ended. And I physically couldn't do anything. I watched a movie on Netflix or on my phone or something, right? I was trying to be busy, like you said, but knowing that the floor below me, there was this meeting happening about my life and my career, I watched a movie.
Right.
I went and met with the dean, and then I went home because I just mentally and emotionally, and it was still good news, but I just couldn't handle it. It's just so stressful. Yeah. Yeah.
It is stressful. The other thing I didn't mention that I think is important is, like you were saying, when they're meeting and talking about you, you have an advocate or an ally that knows your work and research. That was actually a stressful part for me, because my mentor, my first 5 years, was in my department. She was a full professor. Well, she retired last year. And there's nobody else really in my area to be my advocate or ally for the promotion and tenure process. So I had to go through other full professors and ask a couple, would they be willing to do that for me?
Yeah.
But then it also means they're not in my area. So now I have to help them understand what it is that I do. And so I would say going back, this was last August, a year ago, I was really stressed about that because I thought I wasn't worried about the person that was going to talk for me because she knew me really well. And now my new person, you know, he knows me, he hired me. He was the department chair when I started. So I was like, I'm confident in him, but it's still that going back to that's where it was this very deliberate process of thinking about what they're going to do for me. Will they understand me? Can they make the argument if something is questioned?
That's a really important point because I had a person just like you described that had been my mentor who had not retired. So that person was able to be there for me. And what's important, I think, for people to know is when you've got a mentor that's in your field that's worked with you, not only do they know you really well, but what they can do is at these meetings where they're discussing you is they can help people understand like how your research matters, how you are seen in the field, how the journals that you published in, what those journals mean. They can help translate that because people don't always know that. You know, they can help sort of help people understand how others see you in the field because they know they've heard people talk about you or you know, whatever. So it is really helpful. I'm sorry you're having to deal with that, but hopefully it'll be okay.
That's part of it, but no, it's been good. And fortunately I was able to ask two people, like one is the main, you know, advocate and the second one is in my area, but he's just not familiar. He's in literacy, but not in my area. So having the two of them, they're like, no, we'll both support you. We'll talk. And maybe having the two of them will help to get those messages across because my published work is not in the areas that they've published in.
Right. So Chyllis, thank you so much for taking the time to share this process. It's incredibly insightful. And I think the more we talk about it and the more we make it public for people, the more prepared people can be for it and hopefully the less stressed that they will be in terms of experiencing it. And I'm going to look forward to talking to you again in February, March, April, somewhere around there so you can talk to us about fingers crossed, but you don't really need fingers crossed. So you can tell us you have tenure, and so you can talk to us also about what happened between now and when you got that official letter. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Not a problem. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so thanks for joining. And while you're at it, head on down to the comments and let's talk about the tenure process some more. What questions do you have? What have been your experiences with it? Put those questions, put those comments there. Let's hear from you so we can talk about it, help you navigate the tenure process, and help you get the career that you want in academia.